Thought today would be a good day for a reflection video. So today happens to be my birthday, so 37th birthday. It's also the last day of the 75-day challenge that I've been doing. So good time to kind of step back and think about things. So the challenge in finishing that, I guess the way I would talk about it is, I think for the last 75 days, I've been a better version of myself. But not sure that it was the right version. So meaning I think there's a lot of better versions out there, but the optimal one, the quote unquote right one, I think is probably different. It was somewhat of an arbitrary set of guidelines you had to follow. So definitely I got the benefit of, building some mental toughness, grinding your way through it and doing it. But in terms of like optimizing for me personally, it's a different set of things than I necessarily would optimize for. So see the benefit, but not in the right areas for me. Which then begs the question of, is it worth doing? If I had to go back and do it again, would I do it again? The answer is probably yes. Not saying it's fully logical, but I think it is. It's not something that I've totally locked down and feel confident in, but I think that in many ways, the reason that I want to do these challenges and that I would say I would do it again is it's difficult for me to tell if I would know when my mind was being weak on a topic, or even better, that I'd be able to do anything about it when it's really hard. So challenges like this, even if in the midst of it I start to recognize like, hey, it might not be all that valuable, the benefit I see of finishing it, and it's probably more of a flaw of my own that I'm trying to account for than anything to be proud of, but there's a proof point there. I need to be sure, because this might be one of those instances where my mind could just be being weak, but I'm using logic to kind of get out of it. And I recognize that I personally am not capable of knowing if that's the case, if I'm just justifying my way out of something. I'm realistic enough about myself and my awareness and abilities to do that, to know that my gauge isn't 100%. I'm going to miss some. So if I'm going to miss some, I think you could try and say, well, I'm not going to miss any then. And obviously that's not realistic. But when you take on a challenge like this, when you do something like this, you see it through. I do the same thing with reading. Even if it's a bad book, I'll usually still want to finish it and read it. And in some ways that's a bad thing, because there's some wasted time. There's an opportunity cost to that. And I recognize that. It's not that I'm dismissing it. It's just, again, that I see the benefit of ensuring that it's not an opportunity for my mind to take it out. Seems to be beneficial. And you might say, well, why is that beneficial? Why do you need to prove that to yourself that you could do it? So I go back to it. I think in the moments when it's hard, right? When it's going to be hard to recognize it, when it's going to be hard to actually apply and execute on something where I need to be mentally tough. I'm a logical person, so my mind's going to start to question and wonder, can you even do this? Are you capable of it? And if I'm being totally honest, I think historically it's probably come out with, I don't think you could do it. I don't think you have it in you. I don't think you're mentally tough enough. I don't know that I was consciously saying that, but I think that was what was at the root of it in many ways. And finishing challenges like this, finishing reading a book, whatever it is, it logically, when I'm running that calculation, it now says, I have some evidence. I have some data points here that say, I can do things when they're hard, when I seemingly don't want to, when I can think a few years earlier, there's no way in hell I would have ever done that. When you start to prove those out to yourself, it factors into the equation now. And just in a very logical manner, I gain confidence and feel like, okay, I can do this even though it seems really hard. So it really is building up that muscle for me, and building that confidence, that when it's really needed, that it's there. And this is just a way that I help do that somewhat logically. So ultimately, I guess I would do it again. Now there is an obvious cost to that, and now you're testing or taking on every challenge or test, because you say, well, this could be the one, right? There's a risk of an inefficiency there, where eventually the cost starts to outweigh the benefit. And I guess that would play out in such a way in that you'd be so focused on these somewhat arbitrary challenges, because you're afraid it might be an example of your mind breaking bad, that you would never have the time to actually find the thing that mattered, to get to the actual important thing where you actually need to apply the skill. So it's like you'd be exercising to build the muscle just for the hell of it. There's no functional use for it. If you go that route. So I do see that risk, right? That I could fall into that trap and ultimately be net negative in doing these. I'd like to think I have a cognizance of it. I'd like to think I'm at least realistic enough to know that I might miss it. So I'm always kind of open and looking forward and assuming it's almost going to happen, I guess, in some ways. Assuming that, hey, there's going to be some point where that starts to go. And today's perfect example because with the 75-day challenge, there's an add-on component to it. And there was thought of, do I take that one too? Is this like the next piece of it? I have to do it, or this my mind getting it out? And I feel like no, I've already kind of proved what I need to prove in that realm. It would just be inefficient of me to keep pushing on that. There's not anything really more to be gained there. The cost is too high. So you try and focus it more. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to now is just continue to hone in and focus in. Build the muscle, you definitely have to do that, but try and make each one more efficient and that it's focused in towards some end.